in a production of Godspell in high school, and I teared up listening to that. Not because memory lane, but because Jesus H. fucking Christ, it sure feels like we, the people, need saving right about now. But God ain't going to save us because there is no God, so no Deus Ex Machina. We're going to have to save ourselves from white nationalists, from neo-Nazis, from straight white male terrorists. And not just the white nationalists and neo-Nazis and white supremacists marching in the streets or mowing down good and decent people with their cars. Rest in peace, Heather Heyer. But from the white supremacists and nationalists and neo-Nazis in the fucking White House. From Steve Bannon, Sebastian Gorka, Stephen Miller, and Jeff Sessions. But somehow only one white supremacist, only one white nationalist, only one fucking Nazi lost his job this weekend. Cole White, one of the many young men who traveled to Charlottesville to wave Nazi flags and Confederate flags and flash the Hitler salute, he was fired over the weekend after he was identified by the Twitter account, Yes, You're Racist. He immediately lost his job. The hot dog stand where he worked fired his racist ass. So Donald Trump, the president of the United States, doesn't have the courage or decency to do what the owners of a hot dog stand in California did. Fire the fucking white supremacists on his staff. Bannon, Gorka, Miller must be fired. And Trump, that racist piece of shit motherfucker, needs to be impeached already. All right, coming up on today's show on the micro-free edition of the Savage Lovecast, tons of your questions, lots of my answers. And on the Magnum subscription, ad-free edition of the Savage Lovecast that you can subscribe to at savagelovecast.com, Dr. Samantha Joel joins us from the University of Utah to talk about dating and breaking up and how we make those decisions. That's on the Magnum, all coming up on today's show. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers all fresh, high-quality ingredients and recipes you need to create delicious home-cooked meals. Get your first 3 meals for free by going to blueapron.com/savage. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Thrive Market, the new convenient way to get the highest quality natural organic groceries delivered to your door. Try it for free for 30 days and get an extra 20% off at thrivemarket.com/savage. Today's episode of the Lovecast is brought to you by 5-4 Club, fashionable men's clothing curated and sent right to your door. Get 50% off your first package at 5-4 Club when you use the offer code SAVAGE. Just go to 5-4 Club, spell it out, FIVEFOURCLUB.com, and use the offer code SAVAGE.
Hey, Dan. I am a 25-year-old gay man living in the Southeast, and I'm in a very happy, open, monogamous relationship. So me and my partner, we both travel for work, and we both sleep with other men separately and together. So it's a huge turn on for us to watch each other fuck other guys or be fucked by other guys. My concern here is I am typically more top verse and he's more bottom verse. And it works out really well with us one-on-one with me topping him. But every now and then I want to bottom for him, and I really get turned on watching him top other guys, especially watching how well they enjoy him topping. But the issue is his penis is massive, and every time he tries to stick it in, it just hurts. And he does sometimes have an issue getting it up, but when he does get it up, it's hard to get in, and then he goes soft, and then it's just a big old disaster as far as sex. So I guess my question is what can I do? I mean, I've tried using toys. I've tried bottoming for smaller guys, and then slowly going up in size. I've tried sleeping around with a bunch of other guys, bottoming for them, trying to make myself loose, for lack of a better word. But I just can't seem to get there. I've tried butt plugs. And I just want to get to a point where I can bottom for my partner and actually have it feel good, but it's just not feeling okay. I have talked to him, and he said he's completely fine for the course of our relationship, if forever, that I just talk to him and he just bottoms. And that's great. And that's great he's open-minded to that. But there are moments where I do want to bottom. So what can I do, Dan? What can I do to make myself loose, for lack of a better word?
Nobody knows the trouble you've seen. Listening to you rattle off your situation, waiting to get to the problem. Happy, 25 years old, open, monogamous. You love watching him fuck and get fucked by other guys. He loves watching you fuck and get fucked by other guys. And you love this dude. And then you get to the problem and it's penis too big. My lovely, lovable, so sexually compatible boyfriend has a massive cock. You poor dear. Let me know where to send the flowers. Here's what you're probably doing wrong. You're getting out there and you're sitting on dicks of gradually increasing size. I'd love to know how you line up dates, particularly in that order, but good on you. And you're using butt plugs and toys. But I think the mistake you're making is not using those toys. And I would urge you to go in the toy direction, not the gradually increasing dicks selection from Grindr. You're not using those toys during the sex session with your boyfriend where he's going to get his massive penis in you. You're probably playing with toys, playing with a butt plug, and then a couple days later, you're trying to sit down on the boyfriend's giant wiener. And in the interim, your butt has tightened the fuck back up. You can loosen up during a session, a toy session where you play and you put in toys of increasing size in you, and your sphincters and ass will relax. And then you will be ready to be entered by the biggest toy in the house, which is the toy that your boyfriend brought to the relationship. But if you play with toys and then circle back to the boyfriend days later, your butt will have tightened the fuck back up. And good, that's what you want. You want your butt to tighten the fuck back up in between fuck sessions. So next time you want the boyfriend to fuck you, roll around with the boyfriend, play with toys with the boyfriend, and then the last minute switch to the boyfriend's massive cock. And once again, let us know where to send the sympathy cards and flowers.
Hi, I'm a 44-year-old straight female. I have a new boyfriend who's 28 and been dating for about 3 months. We're both sexually experienced. We don't live together, but I sleep at his place most every night. Initially, we met on Tinder as a friends with benefits situation, but we just kept hanging out and eventually decided that it seemed to have developed into a relationship, and we have a great time together. We get along. I have 2 questions, though. The first is, he is very large and quite literally barely fits in my mouth. He loves oral, and I love doing it, but keeping my mouth open wide enough for long enough to make him come seems almost impossible. I've used my hands for additional stimulation, but I want to be able to please him orally. Do you have any advice that could potentially help me? I really want that to be a part of our sexual experience, and right now I kind of feel like I'm failing at it. My next question is, when we have sex, I kind of noticed that he only seems to get off if I appear to be in pain. Not like excruciating pain, but like just a little bit of pain. The first time I noticed it, I sort of discounted it. The next time I kind of played along and sort of acted like I was in pain, which having sex with him does not cause me pain, it causes me pleasure. But when I kind of rolled with that, he seemed to get off on it a lot more and seemed to be quite satisfied. So I am wondering if, since, he's kind of a well-endowed man, if maybe most of the women he's been with, appear to be in pain when they have sex with him. I don't know. I don't experience that with him. But we're building a good relationship based on things that don't revolve around sex. But sex is definitely pretty important to both of us. So at some point, I'm worried that my acting skills may fail me. I get too much into the moment, enjoy it too much, and then he's unable to get off because I don't appear to be in pain. So my second question is, what is the best way to make sure that his needs are being met? Let me also add that he's a very physically affectionate person and gentle. So this pain thing, I think, is just strictly revolved around him getting off during sex. He's not the type of person who is rough with me in any other aspect of our relationship or our life. He's actually really sweet. I'm open to any ideas to make sure that he's enjoying sex as much as I am. Any advice would be super terrific.
His dick may be so big and your mouth may be so small that there's no way to finesse the giving him a blowjob thing, that you're just going to have to use your hands, use your mouth, ride up and down on his dick with your wet and sloppy hands, use your mouth and your lips and your tongue on the head of his dick take him in your mouth for as long, take his dick in your mouth for as long as you can, as often as you can, and then give yourself breaks and just sort of roll with it. And eventually he will come from that blowjob that involves your hands and your tongue and your lips and some time in your mouth, but not the whole time in your mouth. And there's just no way around that. If his dick is really as big as you say that it is, it's just a physical limitation, and you're going to have to roll with it and make accommodations that allow you to be comfortable while still allowing him to enjoy the blowjob that you're giving him. As to the other part of your question, the fact that you've noticed that if you appear to be in pain, he gets off more quickly or more thunderously, that could be an association. That's actually a smart leap that you made there, that, he's got a really big dick, and maybe with most of the women he's been with over the course of his life, there was some pain, but pleasurable pain. Sex and pain sometimes go together. There was some, wincing and, deep breathing and obvious having to adjust to the size of his massive dick. And maybe that created an association in his mind between pleasing a woman, pleasuring a woman, and, his giant dick, and, her wanting his dick so badly that she's willing to endure a little bit of pain and come through it. Erotic pain, not horrible pain. Or he could have a little bit of a sadistic streak. You say he's a really nice guy and would never hurt you and is very tender and loving in every other aspect. A lot of people out there with sadistic streaks overcompensate in every other area of their lives because they can feel a little guilty about the fact that inflicting pain on someone else in a consensual and erotic way arouses them. So there will be some overcompensation. Or they're just legitimately a straight up nice person who has this particular kink, and it's not indicative of any character flaw or dark personality trait. It just is what it is. How do you give him that if it's not particularly painful for you? Well, you use your acting skills, such as they are, and dirty talk. Use your words. Tell him it hurts and moan a little bit, but it's worth it. That it's causing you some discomfort. Not that you should say it that way during sex. That's not particularly a sexy way of saying it. It's causing you some discomfort, but you really love his dick and you want his dick, and you're going to power through it for his dick because you love his dick so much that even if it is a bit of a trial to get it all the way in you want to come through it. You want it. You want it so bad you're willing to suffer for it. That should do the trick. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. They make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone, and Blue Apron achieves this by supporting a more sustainable food system, setting the highest standards for ingredients, and building a community of home chefs. And with Blue Apron, you only get the food that you need to make the meal that you want to eat at that moment. No waste, no leftovers, which actually became a problem in our house because we wanted leftovers for ourselves, for our kid. So now instead of making Blue Apron for 2, Terry and I make Blue Apron for 4 because we want leftovers in our fridge. The meals are that good, and our kid was getting jealous that there was no Blue Apron for him. Now there is. Now there's plenty. For less than $10 per person per meal, Blue Apron delivers seasonal recipes along with pre-proportioned ingredients to make delicious home-cooked meals. Choose from a variety of new recipes each week, or let Blue Apron's culinary team surprise you. Recipes are not repeated within a year, so you will never get bored. And you can customize your recipes each week based on your preferences. Blue Apron has several delivery options, so you can choose what fits your needs, and there is no weekly commitment, so you only get deliveries when you want them. Here are a couple of items on the menu coming up, things I'm looking forward to: spicy lemongrass salmon with green beans and herb rice, and fairy tale eggplant and mozzarella pizza with blistered cherry tomatoes and summer squash. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free. 3 meals for free with free shipping by going to blueapron.com/savage. You can support the Lovecast and again get 3 free meals by going to blueapron.com/savage. You will love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home cooked meals with Blue Apron, so do not wait. That's blueapron.com/savage. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 22-year-old bisexual woman living in California, and I've been going out with my boyfriend for almost 8 months now. And recently we were at a bar having a few drinks and playing bingo, and he won. And they brought him on stage. And this is a bar that we frequent. Everyone knows us there. The owner loves him. So I got on the stage and I always ask him to take off his shirt and stuff. And they usually like ask me if it's okay. And I'm like, I don't care. It's just a shirt, whatever. And they always think that he's like the hottest thing ever. But like he took it a little too far and kind of like showed his ass to everyone. And I was drunk, walked out of the room pissed because he's actually leaving for the military. And I was already emotional. And I was just trying to get my mind up and have a good time. And I just felt like that was a bit too far, especially since they're always like, oh, it's okay with your girlfriend, you know, and they didn't do that. So, but I was just frustrated because, you know, I don't know, I just felt hurt. So then I went outside to cool off and he came back. He came and then he took him a good 10 minutes to come out there, and he came out there and he was like, what's wrong with you? Like, it's just an ass. And I was like, give me a second. He came back again. And he's like, it's just an ass, like, calm down, everything's fine. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm drunk right now, like, I feel hurt. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I'm having an emotional time right now. Like, I just feel like that was too much. And we just spiraled into this crazy argument. And then I saw that he posted it on social media on, like, this Snapchat app. And I asked him today if he would delete it. And he ignored my first text. And I was like, please delete it. I love you. And then he was like, okay. I'm just a little scared because my boyfriend does things sometimes when he's drunk, nothing inappropriate really, just like some things that he would normally do when sober, because he knows there's certain things. I'm pretty open, but he knows there's certain things I'm not okay with. And I'm just scared that I don't want him to think that I'm not the cool girlfriend, because I'm really trying to support him in this decision that he's making. We're going to be long distance for a while. I just want to be supportive, but I also want him to understand my boundaries. And I think he does, but I know that I was drunk, but did I handle this incorrectly? Did I maybe push this too far? Was it a good decision for us to just forget about this and to move forward and keep loving each other? I just want to make sure that I'm not overanalyzing this.
The charitable interpretation is you're going to be going long distance. He's headed off to the military, and you're going to miss that ass. And in that moment, you were kind of sensitive to what you were about to lose, which was his presence, his constant presence, being together a lot. And seeing his ass up there on the stage and everybody appreciating it just sandpapered a nerve that you weren't aware was there. And a nerve he wasn't aware was there. And you didn't do that maliciously. The uncharitable interpretation is that you think you own his ass and that it's your property and you get to decide when and where he shakes it or shows it. And you don't. If the genders were reversed here, if you were a male caller complaining about his girlfriend getting up on stage at a bingo night in a bar where in the past she has shown off a little bit and she was inspired that night to show off just a little bit more, and you blew up and went outside and pouted and got this upset and remained this upset about it, I, and probably most people listening, would be jumping down your throat about the fact that you don't own your fucking girlfriend, that her body is hers. And if she was inspired by alcohol or the sexiness of the moment to show off a little bit, not just for everyone in the room, but also for you, because you were sitting out there, that isn't something that you should be upset about. That isn't something that you have a right to be upset about because you don't own her. That would be the gender flipped advice and interpretation here. So I would challenge you to let this go, to chalk it up to nerves and vague, free-floating sadness about his impending departure, and not to hold on to this conflict, not to grip it. He didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You got upset. You were overwhelmed by feelings, and I think they were misplaced feelings. The only thing you're doing wrong is continuing to hammer away at this or to hold on to this so tightly. He didn't do it maliciously. You guys hadn't had a conversation about how you're fine with him taking his shirt off in a bar, but not fine with him showing his ass in a bar. And so there was no betrayal here of any articulated agreement between you two about who else gets to see how much of what. You're going to have to forgive him and let it fucking go. And if you feel yourself getting tense or upset again, it's just transferred. Just tell yourself that you're getting tense and upset about his departure. And some part of you is engineering a conflict because you want reassurance from him, probably, that when he goes, he's not going to disappear. Sometimes we pick fights with our partners or lovers because subconsciously we need reassurance that they're not going anywhere, that they're going to be there for us, that we're still the most important people to them. And maybe that moment in the bar when he showed his ass to everyone, you worried that maybe you weren't the most important person to him. And it wasn't about showing his ass or taking his shirt off It was about that worry inside of you, and the showing the ass. It wasn't so much the showing the ass, but the showing the ass was the trigger that unleashed this flood of emotion that was about fear of abandonment or losing him. There are many different ways to interpret or understand or read your reaction. Again, the least charitable is you think you own his ass. You don't own his ass. You are important to him. You are still important to him. He has offered you reassurances, probably the reassurances that you were seeking subconsciously when you engineered this conflict, when you allowed yourself, or when you didn't allow yourself, you legitimately got this upset. But I don't think you were upset about the ass. I think you were upset about the loss. Not the loss of his love, not the loss of this relationship, but the loss of FaceTime and face-to-ass time, because he's off to the military. He's off for a tour of duty. You're not going to be around each other for a while. And that is making you sad and perhaps easily triggered, to use that overused word. Chalk it up to that. Stop creating conflict in your relationship where none should exist. And every once in a while, we should all do this every once in a while, remind ourselves that we don't own our partner's bodies. And if you still are upset about your partner showing his ass to a room full of people, check out my husband's Instagram account. Perhaps you and I should start a support group. Eating healthy can be hard because it takes time and it's expensive, and that's where thrivemarket.com comes in. Thrive Market can change the way you eat and shop. It's a convenient new way to get the highest quality natural organic groceries like healthy snacks, supplements, and foods to stock up your pantry at 20 to 50% less than even the discount stores. Thrive Market is like Costco meets Whole Foods online. Pay just $60 a year and get wholesale pricing all year long. The average Thrive Market customer saves about $40 per order, and Thrive guarantees you'll save more than your membership fee within your first 2 orders. In fact, they'll let you test drive the savings for free before you have to buy your membership. Now, this is a sex advice show, and you might remember the last time we talked about Thrive Market, we mentioned that they offer coconut oil, right? Well, Thrive Market also has a section of intimate products. So if Mayan chocolate flavored lube is your cup of tea, then you're going to want to check this out. They also offer a variety of condoms along with a ton of health and beauty products. Discover for yourself why 400,000 members believe in Thrive Market. For every paid Thrive Market membership, a free membership is donated to a family in need in the United States. That is for real. We checked. Test drive it, again, for free for 30 days and get an extra 20% off at thrivemarket.com/savage. That's an extra 20% off at thrivemarket.com/savage.
Hey, Dan. This is a straight-ish woman calling from the South. I am in an LTR with a wonderful man. We see each other about every 2 months or so. He is estranged from his wife, and they will be going through a divorce here in the coming months. My question is about etiquette. My partner is going through a particularly rough period in his life right now. He's got a best friend who's been in a traumatic accident and is in a coma in the hospital. And the general anxiety and stress and sadness about a divorce is, of course, something he's also contending with. What I'd like to do is I would like to send him a care package to let him know that he's not alone and that I'm here for him and that kind of thing. The problem is he and his estranged wife live together. And while I have sent him packages to their home in the past, this was before I knew that they were living together. And in the months since, she's actually found out about me. And so I don't feel that it is respectful or appropriate to be sending things to her home. So my question is there a way for me to send him something that does not violate his wife in any way? I thought of perhaps sending him something to his job. The problem is that he's a server at a restaurant, and he's there in the evenings usually, and I don't know how out he is to his coworkers about his marriage or me or any of that, and so I'm concerned about perhaps outing him or doing something that would otherwise perhaps jeopardize his job. I suppose I could just call them and ask them, but again, I'm not sure whether that's appropriate or not. Anyway, maybe you or some of your listeners have some advice.
You could contact the restaurant where he works and ask if you can tell him you're a friend, you'd like to send him something, ask if it would be all right for you to send it to his place of employment. If his employer, if his manager is going to pass off a package to him, they're not going to grill him about who sent the package and why. They're unlikely to pry out of him the fact that he has a girlfriend, long distance, and that he's in the process of initiating divorce proceedings with his wife. That's not a conversation that grows out of, hey, you got a package here at work. So I think that's safe. If you are concerned, though, if that would be an unwelcome intrusion into his workspace, if you worry that he might react negatively to that, ask him where he likes to go after work, what restaurants he likes to go to. Call that restaurant, buy him a tab, send him an email, send him a text telling him you wish you were there, you wish you could take him to dinner personally, but since you can't, you're taking him out for dinner from afar, and let him know that you put $100 under his name at this restaurant for him to waltz in and retrieve and have a nice relaxing meal with a buddy or a friend or his wife, all on his own. You can also send him gifts online that he can retrieve online, which can all be handled with a couple of emails. There are lots of ways to send him prezzies and let him know that you're thinking of him that don't involve shipping care packages necessarily to his home or his workplace. Terry, my husband, he is the clothes horse in our family. And I don't like to go shopping for clothes, and I am not good at choosing clothes that look good on me. That's what Terry is for. Terry does that, amongst other things. So you can imagine my delight and his when we heard about 5-4 Club. Each month, they send you a curated box of 2 to 3 items, handpicked to match the current season and your style. They've been helping men with fashion for over 15 years and shipped to over 100,000 men every month. So if you are like me, fashion challenged, and you do not have a Terry in your life, 5-4 Club is for you. They know what they're doing. So if you don't, like me, I don't, that's okay. 5-4 Club will help you build your wardrobe 1 month at a time. And having nice looking clothes helps you feel confident. And feeling confident in your pants is going to help you get into other people's pants. When you use 5-4 Club, you get $120 worth of clothes for just $60 a month. And you can pause or cancel at any time. No commitments. And as a 5-4 Club member, you'll also receive up to 50% off items in their online shop and access to exclusive members-only items, free shipping, and size exchanges. Go to 54club.com right now and enter promo code SAVAGE, and they'll give you 50% off your first month's package plus a free pair of sunglasses. That's 50% off your first package at 54club, spelled FIVEFOURCLUB.com, promo code SAVAGE. 54club.com, promo code SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 25-year-old cis queer bi guy calling from Canada. My partner and I have been together for almost 7 years and married for 3. We have an awesome relationship. It's open, honest, caring, and equitable. Unfortunately, my parents' relationship has none of those qualities. My parents are in their early 60s and they've been married for over 30 years. As far back as I can remember, I can't recall a time when their relationship hasn't been on the rocks. Their communication patterns are toxic, cycling through explosive fights to brooding silence to brief periods of calm and then back to fighting again. Now, both of them share the blame for this. My mother is manipulative, controlling, and a chronic oversharer. Nothing can be told to her in confidence. For example, whenever my elderly grandparents get a rash, she immediately texts dozens of family members and friends with graphic details and disturbing images, despite numerous requests to stop invading their privacy and flooding our phones with inappropriate content. My dad, on the other hand, is cold and condescending. He is verbally and financially abusive towards my mother, and occasionally their blow-ups will turn physically violent and he will shove or grab her. Now, as a feminist and just a decent fucking human being, I know that this constitutes abuse and is not okay. I even tried to call him on this as a child, but he simply ignored me. The other piece that complicates all of this is something my premarital counselor labeled emotional incest. Basically, my mom has always used my brothers and I as surrogate partners when it comes to sharing her feelings because she can't do that with my dad. Now, to be clear, there was never any sexual abuse here. It's just that my mom kept sharing things with us about her sex life or arguments with my dad or personal troubles with friends or parents, things that she should have kept to herself because we were small children and she was an adult. Like I said, chronic oversharer. My relationship with my parents is better now than it was when I was a kid, mostly because I have moved halfway across the country and don't have to see them on a regular basis anymore. But I recently went home for a visit, and my mom told me that she didn't know how she could stay with my dad anymore because he was getting more verbally abusive and had recently shoved her again. I told my mom that she could always divorce him and wouldn't receive any judgment from my brothers and I, but she immediately panicked and said, where would I go? Where would I live? How would I support myself? That sort of thing. So here's my dilemma, Dan. How do I offer support to my mom so she doesn't feel stuck with an abuser without falling into the old patterns of emotional incest that were really scarring to me and took a long time to heal from when I was building my own healthy relationship with my partner? Any advice you can provide would be greatly appreciated.
So your fear is that your mom's going to want to move in with you. Is that the unstated fear?
Well, eventually, at some point, who knows? Yeah.
You have siblings,
possible.
though, right?
Yes, I do.
And your mother has siblings of her own. There's this large extended family who she's terrorizing with pictures of grandparents' bed sores.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
So your mom has options other than living with you.
Oh, yeah, she's got many options. Absolutely. All she needs to do is ask, for sure.
Okay, well, that's what you tell her. It sounds like for your own sanity, you've had to draw a really clear boundary between you and your parents, including some geographical distance.
Yeah. Absolutely, yes.
So when your mom says, if I leave your father, I'm going to be destitute, what I'm going to do, you say, well, that's something you need to take into consideration when you contemplate leaving your husband. And you need to have a plan, and you need to figure that out. You just have to shift responsibility for that decision and the logistics of that decision onto her shoulders. Do not assume responsibility for any of that. Do not pick up the burden that she's trying to lay at your feet.
Yeah, and that's something that's so hard, because you're trying to, I hear you, and I know in my mind that's the thing I should do. And then when the conversations actually start happening and, all those old patterns of communications pop up, it's very hard not to take on that burden,
There are some people in our lives who it's easier to have conversations about emotionally tricky subjects with via email than on the phone. Mm-hmm. And that can also be a boundary that you establish with your mother.
Right.
That if you want to talk about the weather or the movies or how grandma and grandpa are doing, we can jump on the phone. Oh, we want to game out the divorce. This is something I need to think about. And so let's have this convo via email, mom. So you can't be emotionally hustled into saying things in the moment because she sounds upset that you don't want to be held to ever when shit calms the fuck down. Do your folks have money?
Well, that's part of the issue, I think, is that it's mostly one-sided on my dad's side. So my mom herself doesn't make a lot of money, and I think that's part of what scares her to think about leaving, even though, we know how divorce works. We know how these 50-50 splits work, but I think it just scares her to think about starting that process,
Mm-hmm. Well, she won't be destitute if she, exactly half of what her husband has, getting the house, getting some alimony for
that's
a while,
how it works,
which is how it works. Yeah. So when she says, where will I go? What will I do? How will I live? All you have to say is division of marital property is how you will live, and you will buy yourself a condo or something, or you'll move in with your parents or your siblings and help out with your pile of money that you will get as a settlement when you divorce my asshole father, or however you talk about your father, talk to your mom about your dad.
Right.
If she's if her emotionally manipulative, emotionally abusive, emotional intimacy shit show involves saying sad and desperate things that then paint you into a corner where you have to say things to comfort her that then she's going to hold you to or attempt to hold you to. Just don't play along. And it's easier to not play along with that kind of shit with an emotionally manipulative relative, particularly a parent, if it's not a live conversation. If it's not face-to-face, if it's not on the phone, keep it on email.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck. I'm really sorry. It's a tough position to be in.
Thank you.
I'm being very... it sounds really simple coming out of my mouth, but it's a lot harder to be in your shoes, I know. But this is how you make it work. You just have to hold yourself to it.
Yes. Yeah, and it's reassuring to hear, that I'm not in charge of other people's relationships, success or destruction, even if they're my parents. That's something I don't need to, put on myself to make sure that they're successful in their marriage.
Right. And your mom's an adult, and she has to live with the consequences of the choices that she's made or is about to make or is contemplating, and she has to shift for herself. She has to provide for herself and get a roof over her own head.
Mm-hmm.
There's a point at which you may become the parent of your parents in your adult life, but it doesn't come at 25 when your parents are in their 40s or 50s. It comes at 55.
Right.
So don't be conned into being your mom's dad.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, thank you, Dan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Dan. My partner and I have been together for almost 6 years and married for 1.5. We're both pretty young. I am 27 and she's 25. She's also never dated anybody before me. Our relationship hasn't been great for the last couple of years, as our needs for love and support haven't been met. On top of this, and maybe in part because of this, we've always found it hard to positively resolve disagreements, despite actively trying. It feels like we're speaking different languages. We also don't have many shared interests or hobbies to fall back on, and don't align well in our physical expressions of love. I feel like I don't need a partner, but the one I do would ideally, among other things, share my excitement for exploration, be passionate about taking care of their body, and naturally give and receive love in ways that complement mine. My wife wants to make this work, but I just can't shake the feeling that we're not right for each other. I'm trying to explain this to her, but she doesn't see it, despite our relationship being just as shitty for her, if not more. I want to avoid pushing for a divorce without her agreement that that's a reasonable course of action. I'm also open to changing my mind and trying, but so far I can't think of a great reason other than the commitment that I made. What do I do?
So you were 20, 21, and your wife was 18 or 19 when you guys got together 6 years ago. And what you've learned over the intervening 6 years and the last 2 years of your marriage is that you aren't right for each other, that you aren't a match. And it sure sounds like you have withdrawn. You are no longer investing in this relationship because you don't see a future with your wife. And you are humoring your wife because she hopes to still have a future with you, not with you, the person that you are, but the commitment that she made. She would like to have a future with the commitment that she made, not so much with you, but with that. And so the divorce is inevitable because the more your wife doubles down on wanting to stay in this relationship, the more committed she is to the commitment, the more you're going to pull back. You're already pulling back because there isn't a sexual connection, intellectual connection, a lifestyle connection, and it doesn't make you happy. The marriage doesn't make you happy. The longer you wait to do the inevitable, the longer you wait to pull the plug, the more painful it's going to be for your wife because the more years she's going to have sunk into this relationship, and the older she's going to be and the older you're going to be. Don't fuck around. If you know it's over, and you sure sound like you know it's over, end it. Rarely in human romantic relationships does an end come by perfect mutual agreement. People like to talk about amicable partings. People like to talk about conscious decouplings, but it's usually one person who's the driver, one person who forces the issue and ends the relationship by withdrawing finally from it. And the other person accepts that, and then it becomes an amicable parting, and then it becomes a conscious decoupling. But when you're in the throes of it, if what you're waiting for is for both of you to be on the same page, is for consensus between two people about ending a relationship, you could be in this marriage for 10 more years, 15 more years, 20 more years. You're going to have to over up and do what must be done, do what you know you must do, not only in your own self-interest, but in your wife's self-interest. She doesn't make you happy. She's not the right partner for you. You don't make her happy. You're not the right partner for her. You two both need to get out there and find new partners. So even if it causes her pain initially, when you withdraw, finally, when you pull the plug, when you initiate this divorce, you'll be doing her a favor in the long run. You will be providing her joy down the road when she meets and falls in love with and partners with a man who's a better match for her than you are.
Hey, Dan. I'm a Canadian woman in my early 20s, and I recently had a interaction with a guy that I'm curious to get your thoughts on. I was someone I was just talking to really early stages of like possibly dating or seeing, and he told me if I was to get involved with him, I would have to agree to his circuit, which meant that for his job, he travels a lot really consistently and doesn't really have a home base. So he said he has women in different cities where he goes to that he like sleeps with and uses like a rotation, and he wanted me to be one of these girls in the city where I live. And he would basically circuit through us. When he told me this, I was really appalled and like kind of disgusted. It was like, you know, you're being passed around and not interested. But I was thinking about it after, and I'm like, he says he's being honest with these girls. Like, is this a guy that just doesn't respect women and he's using them? Or like, is this fine and I'm not being open-minded enough? And Yeah, would love to hear your opinion.
So this guy has a girl in every port. In every city on his professional circuit, he has a girlfriend that he has sex with, that he hangs out with, that he sees when he's in that location. And everything is above board, and he was perfectly honest with you, and he disclosed this to you before you became intimate, and he didn't lead you on or romance you or lie to you. He was completely straightforward. So yeah, he is not a jerk. He is not an asshole. He is who he is, and he conducts his love life in this unique fashion, and you can opt in and be his, whatever city you live in, girlfriend. You can be his Chicago girlfriend, or you can tell him that that's not a position that you're interested in filling, or allowing him to fill you in that position, and thank him for his time and thank him for his honesty, and let him recruit someone else in the city where you live to be the girl in that particular port. Is he an asshole because he's having a lot of sex with a lot of different people? No, he's not an asshole because he's having a lot of sex with a lot of different people. He's being honest. He's being straightforward. He's being direct. He was seeking your informed consent. He was giving you all the information that you needed to make an informed choice about whether he was someone that you wanted to be involved with or not. So definitely not an asshole. Sex phobia, multi-partner phobia, that might lead people who aren't very thoughtful about sex or relationships to conclude that the guy's an asshole, that he's selfish because he's having sex with a lot of people, and that is ipso facto bad? No, it's not ipso facto bad. Dishonesty, violence, neglect, hostility. There are people out there who have just one sex partner their entire life, who they treat like shit, who they abuse emotionally or physically, sexually, and they're terrible, even though they just have one sex partner. There are people out there with multiple sex partners, multiple concurrent sex partners they treat with respect and kindness and compassion, and they have a great time with. And they are good people. They are not jerks. They are not assholes. And of course, there are people out there with one sex partner, and it's a great and wonderful and rewarding relationship, and everyone treats each other well. And there are people out there with multiple sex partners who treat all of their sex partners like shit. You just can't tell whether someone's an asshole or not based on the number of people that they happen to be with at this or any other given moment in the course of their lives. But in the case of this guy, I'm ruling not an asshole. Did everything right. Gave you the information that you needed to make an informed choice. And now you get to make that choice. And if he's not right for you, there's nothing kink shamey or multi-partner shamey about you saying, yeah, that's not for me. I don't want to be with a guy who has 10 other girlfriends in 10 other cities. It's not the kind of relationship that I want. So he's not an asshole for conducting himself in this way. You're not an asshole for not wanting to be his girl in this particular port.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling to make a comment on episode 563 for the woman who wants to be hunted by her partner. Girl, there is porn for this. There is a fabulous feminist artsy porn director named Erica Lust who you can check out online, and she has at least 2 films that I know of that might be up your alley. The titles you're looking for are Horny Beasts and Hunt Me, Catch Me, Eat Me. There are animal masks, there's chasing, and there's lots of sex. Go watch the trailers, and if you like them, you can buy them and give yourself some ideas of where to start. Have fun.
Hello, this is sort of a yes and for the woman who just called who wants to be ravished by her new play partner. You should also consider wearing disposable clothing so he can rip them off you. And then come over to my house and let him play with me because that sounds super fun.
Hi, Dan. This is a message for the woman who doesn't want her daughter wearing a leather choker. I can guarantee you that your daughter knows what the deal is with the choker. She knows it's associated with BDSM, and that is the attraction of wearing it in the first place. That's what makes it transgressive. It's subculture. It's rebellious and sexy, and she knows. I promise your daughter will grow out of the goth thing, or not. I practically lived in my bondage pants the entire time that I was in high school, but I managed to get through the entire phase having never had to have a conversation with my mother about the definition of BDSM or how my fashion choices were provoking the male gaze, and I think we are both better for it. Take heart. Someday your daughter will look back at those school photos of herself and think, I can't believe my mother let me leave the house.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz. 206-302-2064. Impeach the motherfucker already. www.itmfa.org. Go get some gear. and help us raise money for the International Refugee Assistance Project, the American Civil Liberties Union, and Planned Parenthood. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Dr. Samantha Joel on Twitter at Dating Decisions. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We'll all be back at you next week with another installment of Savage Lovecast. Thanks for downloading.